3 years ago, somebody had my truck towed out of my own driveway because they said it was ruining the view from their patio, and by the end of that same month, the exact same people were paying me more every month than my first construction contract ever paid me in a year. Funny thing is, none of it started because of money. It started because one woman moved into a neighborhood she thought she could control and made the mistake of thinking I was just another blue-collar guy she could push around. My name's Cole Mercer. I'm 52, born in Prescott, Arizona, and I've spent most of my life building things with my hands. Retaining walls, timber frame homes, custom garages, ranch renovations, whatever paid honest and kept food on the table. I'm not flashy. Never cared much about impressing people. I wear old work boots, drive trucks till they die, and if you stop by my place long enough, I'll probably hand you a cold beer and ask what kind you want before I ask your name. Back in 2013, after almost 30 years of hauling lumber and grinding through Arizona summers, I bought myself something I'd wanted for a long time: 4 acres tucked against a creek outside Paradise Valley. Nothing fancy. Desert brush, cottonwoods near the waterline, one old stone crossing built by my grandfather back in the 70s. Beautiful in a rough kind of way. The kind of property where mornings feel quiet enough to hear the wind moving through mesquite trees. The stone bridge crossed the creek and connected to the private road leading into Silver Ridge Country Club. Technically, the bridge sat entirely on my land. Always had. My grandfather built it after a flood washed out the original crossing. But for years the club had used it as a shortcut. Members drove across to get to golf, tennis, brunch, all of it. Saved them maybe 10 minutes around the canyon road. Nobody ever charged anybody. Nobody argued. They waved. I waved back. Life kept moving. Then came Rebecca Langford. Rebecca bought the big stucco place across the creek for just over $4 million. Place looked like something out of a luxury magazine: imported stone, infinity pool, outdoor fireplace bigger than my kitchen. She showed up in a white Range Rover, and somehow within 6 months she was on the club board. Everybody knew Rebecca. Real estate investor. Sharp dresser. Always smiling like she knew something nobody else did. The kind of woman who says your name like she's doing you a favor. First time she came over, I was under the hood of my truck, grease on both hands. My truck was a custom black Ford F-450 dually. Cost me more than any vehicle I'd ever owned. Paid cash after years of saving. It hauled trailers, equipment, tools, and yeah, I kept it spotless because I loved that truck. Rebecca stopped near the gate wearing sunglasses worth more than my monthly electric bill and smiled. "Mr. Mercer?" I wiped my hands and said, "That's me." She looked at the truck. I wanted to introduce myself and mention a few of us have been talking about preserving the visual standards around the creek. I laughed because I honestly thought she was joking. She didn't laugh back. "Your truck is visible from several patios near the club terrace," she said. "Some members feel it creates a commercial feel." I stared at her a second and said, "Well, it is a truck." She gave this tight smile. "Exactly." Then she thanked me like we'd had a productive conversation and walked off. I remember standing there thinking, maybe she was just weird. A couple days later I got a letter. Then another. Then a third. All official looking. All talking about neighborhood presentation and aesthetics and preserving property values. My lawyer buddy Aaron looked over the paperwork and snorted. "They don't have authority over your driveway. Toss it." So I did. Thought that'd be the end of it. It wasn't. Wednesday afternoon I got back from a framing site and saw something that made my stomach drop. Empty driveway. My truck was gone. At first I thought maybe somebody stole it. Then I saw tire scrape marks and a folded towing receipt shoved under a rock near the garage. Summit Valley Towing. Vehicle impounded. 26 miles away. Daily storage fee. I just stood there staring. Then I saw paint chips on the concrete. They dragged it wrong. I called the tow yard, and the guy on the phone sounded bored. "Authorized community enforcement request," he said. "Vehicle violated appearance compliance." I actually laughed because I thought I heard him wrong. Appearance compliance? "Sir, you can dispute it later. That truck was on private property. Then take it up with the board." I drove out there, and my blood pressure climbed the whole way. When I saw the truck under floodlights behind chain link fencing, I nearly lost it. Driver's side paint gouged. Tow hitch bent. Front fender scratched clean through. $87,000 of truck sitting there like scrap. I paid the release fee because I wanted it out immediately, then called County Sheriff Dispatch from the parking lot. Deputy Ramirez met me back at my place an hour later. Walked the driveway. Checked the paperwork. Then he looked at me and said words I'll never forget. Mr. Mercer, unless I'm missing something, they had no legal authority to tow from private land. That what I thought could qualify as unlawful towing. Possibly property damage too. I leaned against the tailgate and asked the one question that had been turning in my head all afternoon. Out of curiosity, that bridge across the creek. Ramirez looked at the county map. According to this, that's entirely yours. I nodded slowly. He nodded back. Didn't say another word. Didn't need to. That night, I sat on my porch with paperwork spread across the table, property records, old deed maps, engineering drawings my grandfather kept rolled in a metal tube for decades. Every line confirmed the same thing. The bridge belonged to me. Entirely. Legally. No easement. No permanent access rights. 40 years of neighborly courtesy, and nothing more. Around midnight my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Rebecca. I answered. Her voice sounded calm, polished. Cole, I heard there was some confusion with your vehicle. Confusion? The board acted based on safety concerns and visibility complaints. You had my truck taken from my driveway. We're trying to protect community standards. I looked out toward the bridge, moonlight catching old stone and creek water below. Then I said, Rebecca, tomorrow morning you're going to learn something about community standards too. She went quiet for half a second. Excuse me, but I'd already hung up. At sunrise the next morning, I was already outside with a crew. Two guys I'd worked with for years, Nate and Deshaun. Both men I trusted more than most people I've known. Nate backed the flatbed trailer, and while Deshaun unloaded steel posts and hydraulic gate arms. Neither of them asked many questions. Nate just looked over at the bridge and grinned. Finally, I nodded. Yeah, finally. By 7:30, we had concrete anchors drilled into both sides of the stone crossing. By 9, the steel gate frames were welded in. Pressure sensors mounted. Cameras installed. And right in the center of each gate, I bolted a clean brushed metal sign that read private property. Access revoked. Trespassers subject to prosecution. I stepped back, wiped sweat off my forehead, and looked at my grandfather's bridge framed between two steel barriers. It felt strange for a second. Almost guilty. Then I looked over at the gouge down the side of my truck, and guilt disappeared fast. At 10:15, the first Range Rover rolled up. Slowed down. Stopped. Then reversed. 5 minutes later, another one. Then a golf cart from the club. Then a Tesla. Then 2 more SUVs. Drivers stepped out. Some stared at the signs. Some read them twice. A few turned around immediately. Around lunchtime, my phone started ringing. First call was a man named Greg Holloway from the club. Friendly enough. Cole. Hey buddy. Think there's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. Members are trying to get through. Bridge is closed. Since when? Since yesterday afternoon. Long silence. Then he cleared his throat. You serious? Very. By 2 o'clock, Silver Ridge had a traffic jam at the Canyon Road entrance nearly half a mile long. People were taking the long route around the ravine and missing lunch reservations and tea times. The tennis courts started late because half the players were still stuck driving around the backside. Club staff were scrambling. You could feel panic spreading. My voicemail filled up so fast I stopped listening. But Rebecca never called, which honestly told me everything. By evening, the private Facebook page for Silver Ridge had turned into a war zone. My neighbor Hank came by with beer and showed me screenshots. People were furious. Why was Mercer's truck towed? Who authorized this? We're paying premium dues and can't access the club? Rebecca needs to resign. Somebody even posted a photo of the locked bridge and captioned it, "You can't be serious." Hank laughed so hard he nearly dropped his drink. Well, he said, looks like serious. Day 2 got louder. A local business reporter somehow picked up the story. Apparently, one of the club members owned a media company and fed them details. By noon, the online headline was everywhere. Country Club Board under fire after contractor's truck illegally towed. That brought county attention fast. Sheriff's Department officially documented the damage on my truck. Insurance sent out an adjuster. $14,600 estimated. Paint, hitch, suspension alignment, trim. Summit Valley Towing suddenly stopped answering calls. Funny how that works. Late that afternoon, Rebecca finally showed up. She parked near the gate and walked up in white slacks and sunglasses like she still thought she controlled the conversation. Open it, she said. No hello. No smile. I leaned against the fence. Afternoon, Rebecca. This has gone far enough. You think. The club needs access. That sounds familiar. Her jaw tightened. You're punishing everyone over one misunderstanding. My truck was damaged and stolen off my driveway. The board acted within reasonable standards. I actually laughed. Your board doesn't own my land. You've inconvenienced over 100 residents. And yesterday you inconvenienced one contractor. She stepped closer. Be careful, Cole. I smiled. That advice would have landed better yesterday. She stared at me like she couldn't believe I wasn't backing down. Then she said something I'll probably remember forever. People like you always make things harder than they need to be. Not loud. Not angry. Just sharp enough to mean exactly what she meant. People like you. Blue collar. Dust on boots. Truck and driveway. Useful when building houses. Inconvenient when refusing orders. I looked her dead in the eye and said, people like me built the homes you flip for profit. She turned and left. By day 3, the club board called an emergency membership meeting. I got invited officially by their attorney. That alone was worth smiling about. I showed up in jeans and a clean button-down with Aaron beside me carrying folders. Rebecca was there. So were nearly 80 members. You could feel tension before anybody spoke. Club president started talking about restoring unity and moving forward. Then Aaron slid the property deed across the table. Then towing receipts. Then repair estimates. Then security footage from my driveway showing the tow truck dragging my F-450 out while the tires locked. Whole room went dead quiet. Rebecca tried interrupting. That footage lacks context. Aaron cut her off. Context being your unauthorized removal of private property. Somebody in the back muttered. Oh my God. Then another member stood up. Older guy named Dennis Crawford. Big donor. Played golf there forever. Rebecca, he said, did you approve this? She tried dodging. The board collectively, did you approve it? Silence. That was answer enough. Everything cracked open after that. People started talking all at once. Complaints. Refund demands. Arguments. Someone mentioned legal exposure. Someone else threatened cancellation. One woman stood up furious because she'd missed a charity event due to the detour. 4 board members resigned before the meeting even ended. I'm not exaggerating. Just stood up and walked out. Rebecca looked like she'd swallowed broken glass. Later that evening, Aaron and I sat on my back porch reviewing numbers. He looked over the bridge and said, you realize they need this access more than you need to reopen it. I know. Then don't think small. I stared out at creek water sliding under moonlight and thought about 40 years of free access. The convenience. The entitlement. The letters. The tow truck. Rebecca's voice saying people like you. And slowly I started writing terms. 20-year commercial access license. Monthly bridge usage fee. Mandatory maintenance contribution. Reserve parking leases on a gravel lot I owned beside the road. Late penalties. Harassment clause. Automatic termination if breached. Aaron read through it and raised an eyebrow. You trying to make a point or buy another ranch? Both. The club attorney called 2 days later. Then again the next day. Negotiations started ugly. Rebecca fought everything. Called the numbers outrageous. Claimed emotional retaliation. Said members would never accept it. Then 43 members signed a petition threatening legal action against the board unless access was restored immediately. Membership cancellations started coming in. Suddenly my terms looked very reasonable. 10 days after they towed my truck, Rebecca sat across from me in a conference room downtown with her attorney and the club president. No sunglasses this time. No polished smile. Just exhausted eyes and a stack of paperwork. Aaron slid the agreement over. Rebecca skimmed page after page. Then looked at me and said quietly, you really planned all this? I shook my head. No, you planned it when you hooked up my truck. Her attorney whispered something. Club president looked miserable. Rebecca signed first. Hand trembling just a little. Then the president signed. Aaron signed witness lines. Done. 20-year agreement. $8,700 a month for bridge access and maintenance. 30 reserved premium parking spaces leased separately. Daily penalties for missed payments. And one final clause written by me personally. Rebecca Langford prohibited from personal bridge access under any circumstance, permanent and non-transferable. She read that line twice before signing. Didn't say a word. Didn't have one left. The gates reopened the next morning just after 8. Nate hit the hydraulic switch. The steel arms lifted slow and clean. And for the first time in nearly 2 weeks, Silver Ridge traffic started rolling across the stone bridge again. SUVs, golf carts, delivery vans, club staff. Everybody moving like oxygen had finally been turned back on. But the funny part was how different it felt. Before, people crossed that bridge without thinking. Coffee in one hand, sunglasses on, waving like convenience was just part of nature. Now every single driver slowed down. Every one of them looked over. Some nodded. Some smiled awkwardly. A couple actually lifted a hand like they were passing through customs. Which I guess, technically they were. Hank came over around 9 with his coffee and stood beside me watching the parade. "Whole neighborhood suddenly remembers your name," he said. I laughed. Amazing how that works. He pointed toward a silver Mercedes turning away from the gate. That her. It was Rebecca, coming up the road, slowing near the bridge, then stopping when she saw the sign mounted on the right side post. Authorized members only. Restricted access. Rebecca Langford excluded per agreement. She sat there for a solid 5 seconds, then pulled a hard U-turn and headed toward the canyon road. Hank nearly spit out his drink laughing. Well, guess she read the contract. Word spread fast after that. People talked. Country clubs always do. Within a month, nobody remembered the truck as much as they remembered the fallout. Rebecca officially resigned from the board. 2 more board members quietly disappeared from club leadership. Summit Valley Towing settled with my insurance carrier and wrote me a check big enough to cover every repair plus more than a little inconvenience. My truck came back perfect. Better than before, honestly. Fresh paint, realigned suspension, clean as glass. But the real change happened around the property. The gravel pull-off near the bridge that used to collect dust got paved and striped into 30 premium parking spaces. Club members leased every one of them within 6 days. My monthly revenue jumped so fast Aaron kept joking I needed a finance manager. Between bridge access and parking it came out to a little over 16 grand a month. More than enough to pay off remaining land debt, build a new workshop and finally replace the old irrigation system I'd been putting off forever. 6 months later, an appraiser walked the property and gave me a number I honestly had to read twice. $2.6 million. Mostly because the bridge was now formalized under a long-term commercial access agreement. My grandfather would have laughed himself silly hearing that. A bridge he stacked by hand 50 years ago with desert stone and stubbornness ended up becoming the most valuable thing on the land. Sometimes I still think about that. How many things people dismiss until suddenly they need them. Rebecca listed her house 4 months after signing. Beautiful listing. Professional drone shots. Sunset over the creek. Fancy staging. She still took a decent profit because Paradise Valley is Paradise Valley, but she was gone by winter. I saw her exactly one more time. Late afternoon. I was washing my truck near the barn when a black SUV pulled onto the road. She stepped out. No heels. No designer sunglasses. Just jeans and a tan jacket. She stood near the gate and looked over the creek. Wind moving through the cottonwoods. Quiet except water over stone. I walked over. She gave a small nod. Cole. Rebecca. For a second neither of us said anything. Then she looked at the bridge and asked, "Do you ever think maybe all of this got bigger than it needed to?" Fair question. Honest one too. I leaned on the fence. Sometimes. I was trying to protect values. You were trying to control something you didn't own. She looked down. Didn't argue. Then she gave this tired half smile and said, "I really hated that truck." That actually got a laugh out of me. Yeah, I gathered. She nodded once. For what it's worth, towing it was a mistake. It was. I didn't think you'd fight back like that. I looked at the bridge, then back at her. Most people don't think contractors own paperwork. That landed. She exhaled through her nose and shook her head. Fair enough. Then she said goodbye, got back in the SUV and drove off the long way around the canyon. Last time I saw her. Every now and then members still stop to chat when they cross. Golf bags in back, polos tucked in, acting a whole lot friendlier than they used to. One older guy told me recently, "You know, you probably saved the club from itself." I told him I doubted that. Truth is, communities get weird when people start confusing money with authority. Folks convince themselves expensive homes mean they get extra votes on everyone else's property. Like wealth turns preferences into law. Maybe sometimes it works. Maybe enough people stay quiet and let it happen. But not always. And not with me. Because land teaches you something if you own it long enough. Boundaries matter. Respect matters. Handshakes matter too, until somebody mistakes generosity for weakness. Then paperwork starts mattering a whole lot more. I still park my truck right in the driveway where everybody can see it. Black paint shining, big enough to block whatever view it blocks. Sometimes golfers cross the bridge and glance at it and grin. Sometimes they wave. I wave back. No hard feelings. Mostly. But every now and then I'll hear tires on the canyon road and catch myself wondering if Rebecca's coming through town again, taking the long route around the ravine because she legally can't cross the shortcut sitting 20 yards away. And I'll admit, that still feels a little satisfying. So here's what I'm curious about. If somebody moved into your neighborhood and started acting like they had authority over your property, then crossed a line and cost you money, would you have let it go? Or would you have done exactly what I did and made them feel every inch of the consequences? Drop your answer in the comments, because I promise you this one split people right down the middle, and honestly, even now, I still hear both sides.